the 2-0. Turned in the air to right field. Going back of Gonzalez out the wall. Goodbye. 3-0 in game 5.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of M&A Sports Talk. I'm Matthew Calford alongside Aiden Roman tonight. Aiden, we got a whole lot to talk about. Some big news in the baseball world. Carlos Correa. We got the final NFL bracket for the 2022-23 season's playoff coming in, and we got some injury news with the New York Knicks and R.J. Barrett, perhaps, but also some career nights the other night against Milwaukee, and, of course, the matchup tonight for the New York Knicks. So, Aiden, let's talk first about baseball and the big news today. Officially yesterday, Carlos Correa signing a 6-year deal with the Minnesota Twins for $200 million. And that's a big-time signing after really kind of going between the Giants, the Mets. Both teams denied because of the physical that he had. Now it's official with the Minnesota Twins.
Like you said, Correa being almost bounced around. Like you just said, the Giants, the Mets. A couple days ago, I'm pretty sure it was Monday, Carlos Correa ended up getting signed Tuesday, right? Tuesday?
Yes.
So the Mets Mets understood that Carlos Correa was seeking another deal with the Minnesota Twins, and that made them very frustrated. Probably, what's the word I'm looking for here? Pulling the last straw. And that's a big reason on why the Mets backed away, because they thought they had Correa sealed, done, but he wasn't looking to stay in New York.
Yeah, and this deal, the physical was the only thing that was keeping Correa from being the new Mets possible shortstop or third baseman, depending on, obviously, Francisco Lindor. Most likely we would have seen Correa play third base, but he derailed his $350 million deal with the Giants at that point. Then his $315 million agreement with the Mets just kind of fell off the rails as well. So it's in a sense that Correa had what he wanted, but the physicals and the leg injury, to be specific about it, that really took away the opportunity to be a Giant or to be a Met for Correa.
Oh, 100%. But like you brought up, Francisco Lindor, the shortstop of the New York Mets, and Brandon Crawford, the shortstop of the San Francisco Giants. Correa, either way, if Correa went to San Fran or went to New York, he wouldn't have played his primary position. Maybe that's what he wanted all along. He wanted a big move to happen just so he could be a starting shortstop for another great franchise. But he ended up signing with the Twins, and he has what he wanted.
Yeah, and some other trade news that I just saw, Aiden. Padres agree to a 1-year, $1 million deal with veteran slugger recently on the Washington Nationals, Nelson Cruz. And this is a guy who, he is a little on the older side, as when Cruz turned 42 at midseason, making him the second oldest hitter behind Albert Pujols last year. But this is a guy who, in 124 games, he had 10 home runs, batted .234, leaving him just below the average of OPS plus for 90 for the first time since 2007. But he particularly tough second half for Cruz, who batted him around .208 with 3 homers over his last 64 games. So this is a guy who really, you're not going to see him too much in the field, but this is a guy who we know has power, especially in recent years. Only 10 home runs last year. Again, as I said, he struggled in the second half, but this is a guy for this Padre lineup that already has a bunch of power on their team. When Tatis comes back, most likely, you'll have Soto back. I mean, these are guys that just add to your lineup. Luke Voit, who could play first base, especially with now the outgoing from Eric Hosmer from last year, and just more opportunities for the Padres to become a better team that after losing in the NLCS last year to the Phillies.
Now, to add on with your recent trade news, the Texas Rangers, who nobody thought they'd be good for, we don't even know how long, with the additions of Andrew Heaney, and most importantly, Jacob deGrom, they are really looking into Brian Reynolds, which I was hoping the Yankees were going to pick him up, but after signing the big ticket Carlos Rodon, Cashman said he's not interested in picking up any other big names.
Yeah, and this is such a big offseason, obviously, for many teams. A lot of big time bats out there. I mean, we saw obviously Aaron Judge was out there on the free agent roster. A lot of shortstops like Dansby Swanson, who went to the Cubs. We saw Trey Turner wind up going to the Phillies. But this is a lot of teams that they're trying to get back on top of their division. Obviously, Yankees on top of the division last year with the Aaron Judge scenario. But this is the Texas Ranger team, as you just mentioned, Aiden, that no one really thought they were going to be – everyone actually thought that they were going to be a very good team when they signed Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. But it just didn't go that way for the Texas Rangers. So now you go out, you have an opportunity to sign one of the better outfielders on the trade market. You already signed Jacob deGrom this season. So are the Rangers really the best fit for Brian Reynolds? And if so, can this team get turned around as quickly as they're wanting to?
I would say almost 100%. Yeah, if everything clicks and they do end up getting Brian Reynolds, I mean, we'll see how good Jacob deGrom will be doing in the new uniform and the new stadium. But if he could be a 15-plus win pitcher, I think the Rangers fans have something coming.
Yeah, and this Rangers team is going to open the season at home against the defending National League champions in the Philadelphia Phillies on their home opener. But they got the home opener against Philly from the 30th through the 2nd on Sunday. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they play the Baltimore Orioles. And then they immediately head on the road to Chicago. They'll come back home for Kansas City for 3 games. And then they'll play the defending world champion Houston Astros. So, yes, they have an opportunity to get off to a good start. Playing, obviously, it's going to be a rough opportunity depending on what happens at the Phillies side of things. But you got Baltimore, who started to get hot there in the end of the season last year. You got the Cubs, who had a bunch of offseason additions. And then the Royals, who haven't done too much this offseason, but I feel like they're going to be one of those teams that really surprise people with as young as they are this year. But then you got the defending world champions, the 14th through the 16th. So definitely going to be interesting to see what Texas could do. And obviously, most likely, we're going to see Jacob deGrom on March 30th pitch in Texas for the home opener. So that obviously, of course, will definitely be an interesting and a game to look forward to. So with the signing of Carlos Correa for the Twins, you had another big signing, as we just mentioned, with deGrom. You've had big signings with Aaron Judge, Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander back to the Mets or over to the Mets. A lot of big name pitchers, and we talked about this last week, Aiden, in the first episode. Carlos Rodon for the Yankees, another big name, but a lot of relievers we've kind of seen go place to place, like Adam Ottavino. He's staying with the New York Mets. That's a big arm for New York to stay as well. But what is one guy that you think in baseball right now has struggled a little bit with certain teams? A guy kind of like, for example, a guy like Shohei Ohtani, right? He pitched great all year. He hit great all year. He got to New York, and he struggled a little bit. Do you have any other names that you could think of? All right, maybe this guy would not be the best fit for a big city like that.
The only name that would most likely come to mind, just seeing how this postseason went, really. Now, it could just be because he was in a slump, but I'm just going at a hitter right now. Jose Altuve, as great as he is, when he was in New York, he got, for that postseason series, he got 2 hits, probably 2 for 30. It wasn't too high. He wasn't himself like he usually was, but maybe the fans are starting to get to him, and he's starting to crack.
Yeah, and, this is obviously such a big baseball market nowadays. Everything's being watched on films, analytics here. But what is one thing that for you this coming season, what is one team besides the Yankees and the Mets? Because obviously those two teams highly expected to be good this year with the additions that they picked up this year. What is one team that you are extremely excited to watch in 2023?
I'm going to be extremely excited to watch the Los Angeles Angels, only because it's their roster right now compared to how it was last year. Now they still have the amazing Mike Trout paired with Shohei Ohtani, but they got players like Gio Urshela. Obviously they're keeping Rendon, but he's always injury prone. But now you got an amazing shortstop, a good third baseman. It's just everything's starting to piece together for them. They got a couple more arms in the bullpen. I can't name off the top of my head, but I think they're going to be a really excited team. I think they're good for over 80 wins next season.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you two teams here, Aiden, because I really feel like these are two teams that a lot of people last year wouldn't say that this year would be a playoff caliber team. I'm gonna start with the American League. I want to start with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, obviously, it's not an easy road for a team like that. Really struggled in the first half of the year, but really got things together in the second half. And that's what I think as a team. Obviously, we saw it back in 2019 when we saw the Washington Nationals. They struggled tremendously in the first half of the season. All-Star break hit. It clicked right away, and they wound up beating the Houston Astros in the World Series. So, yes, teams could get off to a bad start and bounce back, but I definitely think that you got to get off to a hot start as well, because that's going to help your record in the long run. And then the other team, I'm going to go to the National League side of things, and that's a team that really have made some big additions, and one of them being Dansby Swanson. That's the Chicago Cubs, Aiden. I'm excited to see this team and what they could do with the pitching staff that they have, the new guys that just came over to the Cubs. We've seen a lot of trades and a lot of free agents signed with the Cubs like Dansby Swanson. I think it's going to be a very different year over there in Chicago.
Now, I see you bringing up the Orioles. I completely agree. Tampa Bay kind of took a step back in the rankings. So, I mean, that gives room for the, I want to say, young and healthy and energetic Baltimore Orioles. Names like Adley Rutschman, Gardner Henderson, Cedric Mullins, Jorge Mateo, just these young stars who are setting the tone so early in their career.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to take our first break of the night, or the afternoon, I should say. We're going to get right back to things. And when we do come back, Aiden, we got the NFL Jets Giants to talk about, and of course the 2022-23 NFL playoffs. We'll be right back on M&A Sports Talk. Welcome back to M&A Sports Talk. I'm Matthew Kaufman. That's Aiden Roman. We got some NFL to talk about here, Aiden. A crazy week 18, really. I mean, we saw the Buffalo Bills take 2 kick return for touchdowns. That crazy story, of course, after the unfortunate injury with DeMar Hamlin. Doesn't get much better than that. First play of the game, you run it back for a touchdown. But that and plenty more to talk about. We're going to first start with the New York Jets, Aiden. And unfortunately for the Jets, well, it didn't end the way that they wanted to, scoring 6 points against Miami.
In a much, I would say, a much needed game, much needed win for the New York Jets. They ended up starting Joe Flacco. It was a shocker to me. I would expect you put your best players out there. I know Zach Wilson has had some struggles throughout the season, but you have to put some trust in the young player. Just put them that confidence, because if they ended up winning that game in Week 18, maybe they could have been in a playoff competition.
Yeah, and you look at this Jets team now. Obviously, granted, the Jets did a great job defensively. They held the Dolphins to 9 points, and the 3 of those points came at the end of the game on a field goal. But this is a Jet defense that has been good all year. It's been the offense that we've seen that has just struggled. And, you look at a team like the Jets, they're still worrying about the quarterback. Who's going to be our quarterback? Is Zach Wilson going to be back next season for us? Is there going to be a competition next offseason between Zach Wilson and whoever may come in to play for the Jets? Do they go draft another quarterback? So much stuff going on over there right now. But the fact that your offense put up 6 points against the Miami Dolphins team that, don't get me wrong, they're in the playoffs. They're a good defensive team. But Miami put up 9 points. If your opponent puts up 9 points, you should be able to put up more than that and win the game. Now, obviously, Miami got the safety at the end of the game to make it 11-6, the final. But it was like watching a baseball game between the Miami Marlins and the New York Yankees, an 11-6 game.
Yeah, I'm going to switch it over real quick to the New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles game now. It was a lot closer score-wise than the last time they matched up a couple weeks ago. But Daniel Jones did not play. Saquon, I'm pretty confident, did not play either. But in a much-needed win for the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off injury for 2 weeks, Jalen Hurts did come out and play. He did end no touchdowns, an interception, a little over 200 yards, but in a much-needed win, the Philadelphia Eagles needed to get that home field advantage in the playoffs, which is just so important, and they got it.
Yeah, and you said it, obviously this Giant team. Now, here is the one concern, though, and I've talked to a few Eagle fans this week, Aiden. That was a second and third string Giant team. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, yes, David Webb had the main receivers that Daniel Jones would have had, but it was a second and third string offense and defense, and it was a one-score game. Are you concerned for Philadelphia at all after witnessing? Obviously, yes, they were playing for something. It's not like they weren't playing for anything. They were playing for the number one seed in the NFC. So they had all their starters out for the game. Are you concerned for Philadelphia heading into the postseason after what you saw on Sunday against the Giants?
I would say 100%. If the Giants ended up starting Saquon and Daniel Jones, I think they would have probably won the game by more than a touchdown. Even if it was by 10, it's more than a touchdown. For the game to be that close, maybe the Eagles have Daniel Jones figured out. Maybe it was better to see Davis Webb out, and they don't really know his play style. But I think the Eagles should be worried if the Yankees end up making it out of the wild card round.
Yeah, and if the Giants do make it out of the wild card round, that's the team that they're going to have to play unless we get a major upset if Seattle could beat the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to get into the predictions in just a moment, though, Aiden. But this is a Giants team that is coming off a win against the Colts, their highest scoring game all season, really in recent years for the Giants. They finally clinched the playoff berth since 2016. You're heading back to Minnesota that you played just a few weeks ago. You lost on a 61-yard field goal. What are your thoughts and how confident are you about this game on Sunday for the Giants against the Vikings?
I mean, if we're putting it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm an 8 out of 10 at my confidence level. It was there. The win, we had the win in our hands. We just couldn't get it done. But hopefully, the new playoff atmosphere. We are going to be in Minnesota, like you said. But hopefully, we can just get the job done and go play our division rivals, the Eagles.
Now, Aiden, I was talking to you this before we started the show today. We both actually saw the same video. It was on TikTok, and it was about how the Giants could win the Super Bowl again. I mean, let's look at the facts here. They were the wild card team back when they won it in 2011, right? Now, they were also the wild card team when they won it their first time in 2007. And when they did that in 2007, Eli Manning, was in his fourth year in the NFL. This is Daniel Jones' fourth year in the NFL, right? This game was played at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Where's this one played? It's in State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Now, is that just a coincidence? We don't know. Obviously, we'll have to wait and find out to see if the Giants can make it to the Super Bowl. But at the point of there's so many things that gone right for the Giants this year they've won the close games. We look back to week 1. They went for it on a 2-point conversion with that little pitch from Jones to Saquon Barkley, and then the missed field goal by Tennessee. That's how they won week 1. Week 2, they won because of the Julian Love sack. So many different things have gone for the Giants this year. Yes, they've lost some tough games, but at the same time, everything and the defense has come up in some big situations. I'm going to take you back, Aiden, to week 5 this year when the Giants played the Green Bay Packers across the pond in London, and the Giants defense came up with some big defensive plays at the end of that game, both of them being batted balls at the line of scrimmage. One of them was on that 4th down play, the last game or the last drive inside the red zone for Green Bay, when Aaron Rodgers was rolling out to his right and McKinney was able to get a hand on it. Those are the kind of plays that are going to have to happen in this game. We saw the Giants coming with a blitz. They flustered Jalen Hurts last Sunday, as we saw. That's how that game was so close. Can the Giants do that to Kirk Cousins? And we also saw in Aiden, I know you definitely saw this as well, but when the Vikings played the Packers a couple of Sundays ago, Jefferson was held to, I believe, 1 or 2 catches, and he was getting a little frustrated. Can the Giants frustrate Justin Jefferson enough that Kirk Cousins needs to find a different target? And could that be what helps the Giants move on to the next round of the playoffs?
We know just as much as every other cornerback or defensive back knows. Once that ball is snapped right into Kirk Cousins' hands, his first eye, it just goes straight to Justin Jefferson. It's no doubt I would give him top 3 wide receiver this year, if not 1 or 2. But as long as the Giants this Sunday just have to make sure. I don't want to say double him, because hopefully that would end up leaving somebody else open. But if you put our best cornerback or D-back on him, I think we can do exactly what the Packers have done to him and shut him down and take the win.
Yeah, and this is a Giant defense that really likes to bring the heat. And what I mean by that is, bring pressure, especially on 3rd downs, and an offensive line that has struggled a little bit just in general this year. But for a guy like Kirk Cousins, veteran in the NFL, he's played in some playoff games, but is this the kind of game that he's able to win and in big situations? Now, the last time the Giants played the Vikings, the game where they beat the Giants, it was 27-24. That was the final. Now, Jefferson had 12 catches in that game for 133 yards and a touchdown, but 16 targets. The last 2 weeks, he had 5 targets, 1 catch against Green Bay for 15 yards, 5 targets last week against the Bears. Now, granted, he didn't play the entire game, had 4 catches for 38 yards. But this is a Giants defense that gives up the big play, you could say, in a way. But at the same time, if they could get to you early, this is the defense, Aiden, that has a chance to come out of Minnesota and do just enough to beat the Vikings on the road and possibly head into Philadelphia, of course, needing the 49ers beating Seattle. They would head to the number 1 seed, which would be Philadelphia. But again, we'll get into that part later on. So what do the Giants need to do besides locking up Justin Jefferson? What do you think they have to do offensively to get to the next round of the playoffs?
Offensively now, I think that if we get Saquon going early in the game, first quarter, preferably like by halfway through the first quarter, if you get Saquon Barkley going and they have to put all their attention on Saquon, and Daniel Jones could start hitting Kenny Golladay. I know he just caught his first touchdown pass for the Giants in over 600 days. It's a little shocking, but maybe Kenny Golladay is good in the postseason. We'll find out come Sunday. But if we could keep Jefferson locked up, if we could keep blitzing, If Saquon gets hot early, I think the Giants have a good shot in making and probably playing the 1 seed.
Yeah, this is a key matchup that we've mentioned before, and I've been talking about it all week so far. The key matchup of the game, obviously, besides Justin Jefferson, it's the running back game. Obviously, you have Saquon Barkley for the Giants, but then you have Dalvin Cook for the Minnesota Vikings, two running backs that have had a great year for their respective teams. But the question is, who is going to get off to the hotter start? If Barkley gets off to the hot start, the Giants have a big chance of winning the game. If Dalvin Cook gets off to the big start, Vikings have a chance of coming out with a win. So that's all going to depend on who gets off to a hot start, which team scores first. Now, we did see back in their matchup a few weeks ago when back on December 24th on Christmas Eve, when these two teams played, these were two offenses that were coming off some big games. One of them a win for the Vikings because of the fact the Vikings just came back 33 points to the Indianapolis Colts the week before. And the Giants, of course, coming off their win. So, you look at this schedule and what this team has done, but for the Vikings, do they have enough to beat the Giants for a team that really wants it? And a first-year head coach in Brian Daboll, obviously first-year head coach for the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. But at the same time, it's going to be a question of who wants it more.
Like you said, exactly like you said. The Giants' new coach, you could tell he's just hungry for the wins. It's working out perfectly. It's hyping up our team. You saw on our last podcast, I'm pretty sure you threw up a video of just Daniel Jones and the speech he made, and how hyped the coach was. I'm pretty sure the Giants' new head coach is going to win Coach of the Year and maybe even get the team a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, and, we're going to get into the next portion of this, and that's going to be the playoff matchups of this wild card weekend. We're going to start with on Saturday over on Fox, 4:30, kickoff between the Seattle Seahawks visiting the San Francisco 49ers. Then we got on Sunday, we got another good one, on Saturday night, we have the Los Angeles Chargers heading over to Jacksonville, kickoff around 8:15 over on NBC. Then we got the Sunday games, Aiden, and this is where it gets good because 1 o'clock, we got the Miami Dolphins, which, by the way, are going to be without Tua Tagovailoa on Sunday, visiting the red-hot Buffalo Bills. Then, of course, after that game, we have the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings on Fox. And then Sunday night, the big one, Ravens-Bengals rematch from last weekend on Sunday when the Bengals came out on top over the Baltimore Ravens. And then to finish off Wild Card Weekend, of course, it's Dak Prescott and the Cowboys and Tom Brady and the Bucs. That's over on ESPN. So, Aiden, you have your predictions for the 2022 playoffs. Would you like to go first, or do you want me to give my predictions first?
I'm glad to go first. I'll do the wild card round of the NFC first, and then we'll go from there. So,
all right, let's hear it. What do you got?
The Buccaneers beating the Cowboys. I'd say it's a close game. Definitely one touchdown game. I have the Buccaneers winning because Brady, just off the stats, he is 7-0 against the Cowboys. I think he keeps that streak rolling. He knows something the rest of us don't know. He's constantly beating them. And then for the Giants and Vikings, I have the Giants winning. If like I said before, if Saquon starts off hot, it could be over. And then, to no surprise, I do have the 49ers beating the Seahawks, only because the 49ers are such a complete team. It's going to be hard to beat them. Now, you could state yours.
So I'm going to go with a little surprise. I'm going to start with, obviously, I want to stick with what you have with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to say that's going to be a 2-possession game. It's going to be a 10-point game. The score is going to be 27-17. I got the Giants over the Vikings, as you mentioned as well. If Barkley could get hot, I feel like the Giants could play defensively better and have more momentum offensively. But I do have an upset for you, Aiden, and that's the Seahawks beating the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm going to tell you why, because I've mentioned this a few times this week, Aiden, and I've gotten a lot of disagreements on this, but this is a 49ers defense that arguably have been the best defense in the NFL, without a doubt. But you have a rookie quarterback. As of now, what we know, it's going to be Brock Purdy starting next Sunday, right? So this is a guy who's never played in a playoff game, okay? What is he going to do in a playoff game is the question, and that's why I have my guy Geno Smith beating the 49ers this Sunday and heading to Philadelphia and sending the New York Giants to Tampa Bay for the divisional round. Now we're going to go over to the AFC side of things. I'll start this one off for us, Aiden. I'm going to say the Jaguars are going to take over the Los Angeles Chargers in Jacksonville over on Saturday. I said that's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to a big defensive play by Jacksonville. Cincinnati, I have over the Ravens. That's going to be a 10-point game, 24-14. Depending on if Lamar Jackson comes back, I feel like a guy like Lamar Jackson coming off an injury might be a little shaky out of the box, but we'll have more on that later on. And then obviously without Tua Tagovailoa, I have to go with the Bills over the Dolphins.
Now, I'm going to start opposite. I do have the Bills taking over the Dolphins. I think it's going to be a blowout game, personally. The Dolphins don't have their star quarterback. Sadly, he is out, another concussion. But I think it's going to be a blowout game, maybe 30-10. I'm confident they hold them to 10 points. And going on to the Bengals and Ravens, I think it's going to be a close game, exactly like you said. But I think the score is going to be at 37-14. I think the Bengals would take the W there. And the Jaguars, I agree with completely what you said. One-score game, maybe by a field goal, but I do have the Jags winning it.
All right, so now that we have the wild card round done, Aiden, now I want you to give me the rest. You're going to give me your entire prediction for the playoffs. We already got the wild card, so for what you have in the divisional round, I believe you have the Chargers the Jaguars would be taking on the Chiefs, and the Bills would be taking on the Bengals, correct?
Yes.
All right, what do you got for that, Matt? Let's start with the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Who do you got winning that one?
100%. I got to say the Chiefs. I think the Jaguars' luck ends there. The Chiefs are just an amazing team. Same record as the Eagles, just two teams that are just dominant.
All right, now let's move to the other side of the bracket. That's Bills and the Bengals, Aiden. That's going to be a game that we were supposed to see a couple of weeks ago, but due to the DeMar Hamlin situation, of course, we did not see that, and it was much better off that we didn't see that game because I don't know how you could play that kind of game with what happened, but we might get a rematch of that game, depending, obviously, if our predictions are correct. So Bills-Bengals, who do you got coming out with the win?
I think the Bengals start off hot again like they did before the injury, the sad injury. But fourth quarter, I think the Bills make a comeback and they end up playing the Chiefs again in the conference championship.
All right, so let's stick with the AFC. We'll go to the NFC in just a moment. So now your championship games, Chiefs, Bills. Chiefs, I believe they would be holding that AFC championship game. But who do you have coming out, Bills or Chiefs, and heading onto the Super Bowl?
Just because of how great of a team they are and how the momentum will most likely still be in their favor after the win over the Jaguars, I would have to stick with the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a close high school game, maybe somewhere around 37 to 30, I'd say.
That's going to be a good game if we get that. So I'm going to give you now my side of things. I'm going to do the divisional round. As I said, we have the upset win from Seattle and Geno Smith, able to beat the 49ers. They would take on the Philadelphia Eagles. If that scenario did happen, I feel like the Eagles would definitely win that game just because of the fact it's in Lincoln Financial Field. It's a loud atmosphere. I feel like Jalen Hurts would be able to dominate over that Seahawk defense that has struggled at times this year. Then you go to the other side, Giants and the Buccaneers. I say that the Giants wind up beating Tom Brady, which could be possibly his last ever NFL game. We also said that last year, but he came out of retirement. Then we go to the conference championship, and that would be Giants, Eagles, NFC East rivalry. And Aiden, I said it earlier when I said I'm a little concerned about these Philadelphia Eagles and what they have done and how they looked against the Giants on Sunday. But this is an Eagle team that's been great all year. This is a Giants team that has had its up and downs, but I'm going to go with the Giants winning this game against the Eagles, and they will take on whoever my AFC team will be, and I'll get to that in just a second. But this Giants team, I think, Aiden, has a chance to beat the Eagles and whoever may come out on the other side of things in the NFC East, or the NFC side.
I completely agree with you, but for my bracket, I do have the 49ers playing against the Giants in the conference championship. I know you had the Seahawks and the Buccaneers, but that's just how my bracket worked out. I do believe the Giants do take the W over the Eagles in the divisional round, 100%. Just like you said, like you stated before, how shaky and how concerned Eagles fans should be after last week's game against the Giants.
Yeah, so now I'm going to give you the AFC side of my thing on my end, Aiden. And obviously, it would be the same scenario that you had: Chiefs against the Jaguars, Bills over the Bengals, or Bills and Bengals. I'm going to go Chiefs over the Jags, as you mentioned. And I'm going to go Bengals over the Bills. And this one's actually going to be interesting because this is going to wind up being a little crazier than what you might think. So Bengals beat the Bills. Then it would be Bengals-Chiefs AFC Championship game rematch. And I say that the Chiefs wind up taking that win and getting revenge from last year. And then we got the Super Bowl, which my Super Bowl matchup, Aiden, would be the Chiefs versus the Giants. And this may be a crazy one, but I think the Giants win that one.
Yeah, I got to stick with you there. I have the exact same Super Bowl. Chiefs and Giants. I think the Giants. Obviously, I'm not going to knock the Chiefs. I believe it will be a close game. Definitely a one-score game, maybe like 27 to 20. But I think the Giants do come out on top this season.
All right, so you heard it firsthand. We got the NFL playoff predictions. And, it's going to be an interesting one, I'll say, Aiden, because this is an NFC that came down to the wire. Seahawks snuck into the playoffs thanks to the help of the Detroit Lions. 49ers, number 2 seed, of course, they had a great second half of the year on that winning streak. Eagles have had a great year all around. Giants have had the up and down season, but has really gotten it together. And obviously, it's Tom Brady against the Cowboys, 7-0, as you mentioned earlier, Aiden. But it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. How could you root early in the wild card round against Tom Brady? So when we come back, we got some NBA to talk about, and that's the New York Knicks, and getting ready for their tip-off at 7:30 here against the Pacers. We got that matchup coming on in a moment. We'll take a quick timeout from M&A Sports Talk. We'll be right back. So back here on M&A Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Matthew Kaufman. That's Aiden Roman across the screen. And Aiden, we've talked Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins deal. We've got the NFL playoff predictions and what hopefully shapes out to be a very good wild card weekend up ahead of us on Saturday and Sunday. Now let's head to the NBA side of things, and that's the New York Knicks. We got the Knicks taking on the Indiana Pacers here tonight at 7:30 Eastern time. Right now, Knicks 7th in the conference, but looking like a team that has a chance to continue to run and eventually push a playoff spot.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially that RJ Barrett is coming off that injury. He will be starting tonight for the New York Knicks after missing a couple games due to getting stitches in his right finger. But everything's going well for the Knicks. You got a healthy, amazing Jalen Brunson. Yeah, Emmanuel Quickly, who just had his career best against the strong Bucks led by Giannis. Sadly, they did end up losing that game. But Quickly has been on fire. He's found his stroke. He's been the guy to guard.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that career game, 23 points in the loss to the Bucks. But then you look at a guy like Jalen Brunson and Aiden. This is a guy who put up a career best the other night against the Bucks. I'm going to read you the stat line: 44 points, He was 15 for 30 from the field, 4 of 10 from the three-point from deep, 10 for 10 at the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 4 assists in 39 minutes during Monday's game against the Bucks, which wound up being a 4-point loss for the Knicks. But I'm going to read you this little blurb here from ESPN. The 44 points were a career high for the point guard who continued to reward the Knicks for signing him this past offseason. Brunson has scored over 20 points in 5 straight games, sandwiched around a 3-game absence due to a hip injury. And on the season, he's posted career average in 21.6 points a game, assists of 6, and three-pointers 1, and steals about 1.1 a game. So this is really an opportunity that the Knicks didn't expect when signing Jalen Brunson. They have gotten the absolute best, I think, and there is definitely better to come out of Jalen Brunson for the New York Knicks.
Oh, 100%. Speaking of best better to come, Julius Randle is continuing this hot streak. Last 7 days, averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, block, a couple turnovers, but he has been unstoppable. The other night against the Bucks, Julius Randle, 25 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and played 40 minutes. You can't ask for much more. Just Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle combo is just out of this world.
Yeah, and talk about a guy like AJ Barrett. He's a guy who has had some great success against the Indiana Pacers in his career. So maybe do we see a little bit of that tonight from RJ Barrett? Obviously, we got some questions more with that, but in watching these Knicks, this is a team that plays with some excitement behind them, and that's always a good thing to see.
Oh yeah, 100%. Speaking of excitement, I'm a Knicks fan. All the other Knicks fans listening to this, before RJ Barrett's injury, he did drop a nice double, 17 points, 10 assists. But the night before that, he did drop an amazing 44 points, giving the crowd that thrill, excitement, and hit their trio mixed with Obi Toppin, who would just easily windmill dunk, East Bay, just the excitement in the crowd, really get the crowd going and the cheers start flowing.
Yeah, and when you have a arena like Madison Square Garden and you get your fans behind you, I feel like that atmosphere just becomes 10 times better. And that really goes for anybody, Obviously, it's just an atmosphere that you want to be at. You want to see these two teams win. And for the New York Knicks playing at a home game, their record's almost even with the Pacers. Pacers at 23-18 on the year, Knicks at 22-19. So this is a game that, Aiden, this could be a good one tonight. What are you predicting for this game as we get ready for tip-off in just over about 40 minutes from now, Aiden, as this is going to wrap it up? But what are your predictions for the night?
I'm predicting a good double-digit win by the Knicks. We did lose our last game, looking to get back on another winning streak. I think a good double-digit win to tie for the 6th seed in our division. Get back up there in the rankings. I know we're sitting at the 5th spot, lost a couple games, but we'll be right back up there.
Now, Aiden, I want you to give me your player to watch for tonight for the New York Knicks. What do you got?
After having an amazing last game against the Bucks, I think Emmanuel Quickley will show up again tonight and push the Knicks to another win.
All right, now this is a Knicks team that is coming off a loss on Monday to the Bucks. How do you bounce back offensively?
You have to put that behind you. You can't really focus on that. But you did get RJ Barrett back, so now you have everything going. You have your trio, plus the addition of a red hot 3-point shooter, Emmanuel Quickley, with the guy who sets the tone, Obi Toppin.
All right, so you look ahead to this next couple of games. We're going to take you all the way up to Sunday. You got the Knicks and the Pacers tonight. That's getting ready in just under about 40 minutes. Then you got the Knicks head to Washington to play the Wizards on Friday. And then Sunday, a afternoon game over in Detroit as the Knicks take on the Pistons. So these are 3 games that, Aiden, these are 2 teams that are looking to continue to play well. And for the Knicks, this is a big opportunity in these kind of games with the Wizards kind of struggling this year, the Pistons really struggling this year. The Pacers are just above the Knicks in the standings. That could all obviously change tonight. Pacers have won 2 straight. Knicks lost against the Bucks. And that's going to wrap things up here on episode number 2 of M&A Sports Talk. Once again, everybody, I'm Matthew Calvin. That's Aiden Roman. Thanks for tuning in to episode 2 of M&A Sports Talk.